Monday. It's windy outside and I'm tired. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning. Quick rehash of my weekend. Saturday, I actually had to get up pretty early because I met, I should say, some of my leadership students, not all of them because this was voluntary, some of my leadership students at the high school they are supposed to go to next year to work with the ASB students there, just to kind of get a feel of what ASB looks like in the high school setting. So the person that organizes this, if I understand correctly, is a parent. Well, I know this part. She is a parent of one of the ASB students, but I don't know for sure if she's a staff member, a technical staff member at the high school, but I know that she works very closely with the ASB there, even if she isn't, because they all know who she is, and the actual advisor at the high school was there as well. So I got there at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we were there until about 1 o'clock, and they just did different rotations and heard from different members of ASB and other parts of student government, just to kind of explain to the students what it's like at the high school level, because it is very different. It does come with a lot more responsibility. So the purpose is they want the 8th graders that are interested and ultimately become a part of ASB or student council or Senate or the different factions that they have a very clear understanding of what they've signed up for and the level of responsibility that's required. So it was good. I honestly wish a lot more of my students had gone, especially the ones that I know are interested, because the few that did go had a good time, and I feel like it was very informative. So that took half the day on Saturday. And then I also, when I got home that day, I was very busy. I had to edit 2 videos. One was the vlog that went up last Sunday, and then I had to edit and upload kind of like my week in review on my low spend adventure that I'm on. So I worked pretty much all day. And then Sunday came and I woke up not feeling well, and I don't know if you can hear it now, but I am congested. Like, I've had a cough. I've been sneezing a lot. I just feel very congested on the inside, and I really wanted to take today off. Not so much because of that, but because I really do need that mental health day, and I wanted to take today off, and I actually thought I was going to, but then I changed my mind because we have a field trip tomorrow, and I need to make sure everything is in place for the field trip tomorrow. And if I had taken today off, I really would have spent some time like working on stuff, like lesson plans and things like that. And if I'm going to take a mental health day, I really want it to be a true mental health day and not a day of me working. So I'm going in today so that when I take the mental health day in the near future, hopefully it truly is a mental health day. So not only that, I also go through this whole moral dilemma when I just want to take a day off just because I need a break of should I do it, how terrible of a teacher I would be, especially this year because I've been out a lot just with union stuff and things like that. And so some people, when they decide to take a day off, they just take it off, and it's really nothing, not a big deal. They don't have any second thoughts, or they're not second guessing themselves. And sometimes I wish I could be more like that, because I literally do just need like a day off to just rest, especially after this weekend, because I have been working all weekend. So there's that. Sunday, I have to concentrate because this person in front of me, I'm not sure what they're doing. Sunday, I woke up not feeling the best. I went and made a haphazard trip to Target, which I am now regretting because I just realized I didn't buy any coffee creamer or sweetener, which I need. And I partially did that because at that point I really thought I wasn't going to be working today. I was going to just figure it all out today. But I did that. I picked up a couple of things. I got my eyebrows waxed because that needed to be done, and then I came home, watched the Super Bowl, and got some grading done. Still need to finish some grading, and went to bed. And speaking of the Super Bowl, I just want to say that J-Lo and Shakira did an amazing job. I need to be more like them. They look amazing for their age, their energy level, just all of that. So I'm here at school. The wind is howling, which I love. But I'm a little bit early because I need to get some things done. So I will check in with you guys when I get a chance. Well, hello guys. It is just about 5 o'clock. It's probably 10 minutes till 5. I'm obviously not in my classroom. I'm at home. I just got home not too long ago. Today was cold and windy. That's number one. Number two, it was a minimum day. I don't remember if I said that on the way to work this morning, but minimum days always fly by. So I didn't get through everything I wanted to get through today. Today they took a social studies quiz, which was something I wanted them to do, so that was good. But I also wanted to try a fishbowl discussion with my classes. This is a strategy that I learned when I took my trip to Finland with book back tours, and it's basically a small circle of 5 students that are sitting there by choice, and then the rest of the class is kind of on the outside. And on the inside circle, I believe there's 5 chairs, but like 4 participants, or the numbers might be different. And you give them a topic to discuss, and at any moment, someone can come in and fill in the empty chair. I need to look at my notes to make sure that's how it works, or my vlog where I talked about it, but that's what I wanted to try. And I wanted to use the idea, like this morning when I was getting ready, I wanted to acknowledge it was the start of Black History Month, which is why I wore this shirt today that I got from Target that has some different names of historical figures in Black history. All female, I think. Yeah, all female. They have another version of this shirt that includes some male figures also. But I also wanted to make sure that there was equity in the conversation. So I don't want people to think that I'm only having or making time to have this conversation in class because it's Black History Month and I'm Black and I only care about Black History Month. So I wanted to make sure the conversation was inclusive. And mind you, we talked about Hispanic Heritage Month as well. I don't know if we talked about it, now that I think about it, so much as I read books from that background. So I wanted to acknowledge the start of Black History Month because there are some things I'd like to do during the month, but I also wanted to make sure that my students understand that I'm not just focused or concerned with Black History Month, but I'm really concerned about the idea of discussing all the different months that come out throughout the year. So the discussion, I first put the discussion question on Padlet because when I've tried having conversations or discussions with both of these classes, not using the whole fishbowl strategy, but just generally speaking, it is like crickets in there. Now, I don't know if that's because when I tried these, it was earlier in the year and they weren't comfortable, or they haven't had time to formulate their thoughts. I'm going to hope that it's really the latter, like they didn't have time to formulate their thoughts. So I posted the question on Padlet first and told them when they finished their social studies quiz, they were going to answer the question. So I projected it to them, read through it, and explained it. And I don't remember the exact wording of the question, but the question basically says something like, it gives examples such as Hispanic Heritage Month, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Pride Month, etc., and said these are called heritage months. And the question was, do you think it's a good idea for us as a country to recognize and celebrate these months? Why or why not? And then what are some pros and cons of celebrating months like that? So I said you're going to respond on Padlet, but just be prepared to discuss because this is going to be a discussion that we have in class. So they at least got the Padlet done for the most part, and that was where it ended because we were short on time. And then we watched the weekend wrap. We read the article of the week, which was focused on the Grammys, so they were, you know, pretty engaged with that article. And then we only got to talk about chapter 13 of Boy in the Striped Pajamas, which is the chapter that we read last week. So we didn't get to read a new chapter is basically what I'm saying. So that's how the day ended. After school, I had to talk to one of my assistant principals to get some advice for a friend of mine. And then I went back to my classroom and I finished grading this series of assignments that I was really dreading, just not because they're hard to grade, but just because I had gotten backed up. So every week they have an article of the week that they complete that is paper-based, and then on Fridays they go on to a Google Classroom assignment and they write about 3 sentences reflecting on some new found learning that they've gathered from the article, and then I read it and I respond to it. So it's not hard, it's just I was like 4 articles behind, so it was just kind of tedious. And it had been on my list of things to do on my Apple Watch for days, and it was listed as overdue, which caused me anxiety. So I wanted to get those done so I can check it off my list, and I haven't even checked it off my list yet, but I'm going to. So that got done, and that's great. If I were to be totally honest right now, I'm a little like, I'm just having one of those moments where I'm like, why are there not more hours in the day for me to get the things that I need to get done? I'm having that moment because I need to pay my bills. I need to edit a video for a company, and I need to cook dinner, and I don't have any gas. And I just realized I probably have to go back to the store to get some things for lunch tomorrow, since when I went yesterday, I wasn't really fully focusing because I thought I was going to take today off. I am feeling better, but I'm just stressed. So what I'm telling myself right now is I'm going to have to turn Miss Robinson off for the day. Tomorrow's going to be fine. They have a field trip that will take up a good chunk of the day, and then when we come back, it's going to be at this odd time, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to see both classes tomorrow. And if I do, I already know that we're going to spend our time having that discussion that we were supposed to have today. So I need to tell myself tomorrow's going to be fine, and the schoolwork that you didn't get done today will get done tomorrow, and just let it go. Like, that is the part of me as a teacher that I'm really bad about, because I have to focus on what I need to do here at home. So I'm going to have to let that go. So I'm home. Dogs are resting. I'm getting ready to pick my outfit for tomorrow, which is going to be easy. Since we're having a field trip to the high school, I'm just going to wear the school's polo shirt and some jeans. And after that, I think I'm going to go downstairs and cook the dinner, or maybe I'll pay the bills first and then cook the dinner. I don't know. I don't know what order I'm going to do it in, but I got to cook dinner, pay my bills, get some gas, and maybe go to the store and edit a video. So it's 5 o'clock. I need to go to bed by 9:30 because I think I'm going to try Orange Theory tomorrow with this toe. So yeah, I need to get started. Hello everyone. I'm going to talk kind of fast because I need to leave because I have a manicure appointment at 6 o'clock and I'm excited about it. And I want to get home first to let the dogs out and turn some lights on. But I definitely wanted to pop in here really quick because I had such a great day and I wasn't really expecting to. Not that I was expecting to have a bad day, but I just was apprehensive about trying something today, and I'm so glad I did. First things first, today we took our 8th graders, all of the 8th grade teachers, both math and science, took our 8th graders to the high school that most of them will be feeding into, which is about 5 minutes from here. And there, the high school welcomed them, kind of just oriented them to some aspects of high school life that they need to be familiar with. And we got back here at about 11:15, so we were gone for approximately 2 hours. And when we got back, the time was a little off because I essentially lost half of my class time with my homeroom class. And so Miss Cohen and I, my partner teacher, decided to split our time. And so it was the perfect opportunity for me to try something that I've been wanting to try since I went to Finland. And it's this discussion technique called fishbowl. And so I've been wanting to do it but I just haven't, because both classes sometimes just, it's hard, like it is like pulling teeth for them to like participate in conversation. So I just wasn't feeling very optimistic. But yesterday, I believe I mentioned in a clip, I gave them the question ahead of time and had them respond to it on Padlet, so they had at least some sense of where they stood on the topic. And then today told them, okay, I asked you that question yesterday to kind of get you prepared. And so they were ready with something. So basically with fishbowl, and I might have done it a little bit wrong because I didn't have time to consult my notes, but I believe you are supposed to have 5 or 6 chairs in the center. With my homeroom class, I did 6. With my switch class, I did 5. And at all times one of the chairs should be empty. And so those 5 seats are reserved for people that would like to participate in the conversation, contribute to the conversation, and the rest of the class that is not in one of those 5 seats is surrounding that inner circle. And that is why it's called fishbowl. So everyone's standing, which meant we had to move all the desks out of the way and move them off to the side and move their things off to the side. And so I just kind of refreshed their memory about the question. I said, okay, you know, we live in America and this is a big melting pot, and there are some people that believe, you know, this is a land of many people from different backgrounds, and they feel we're supposed to come here and embrace one like core American culture. And so there are some people that don't believe we should celebrate heritage months, things like Black History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Pride Month, etc. And so I said, so we're going to discuss today based on your responses from yesterday. Do you agree or disagree? Should we celebrate these things or not? And regardless, what are the pros and cons? So it started off slow, but I let them know that your class grade for the day is just your participation is in this process. So if you contribute to the conversation in some way and it's on task and you're on track, you'll get credit for participating today. If not, you won't. And mostly everybody in my homeroom class participated. A good portion of people in my switch class did, but it got really heated because we talked about that, but we also talked about like gender issues. My switch class, we got really into Pride Month because a lot of people were really stuck on that and said that one was hard for them. And they just spoke so openly and so honestly and like asked questions, and it really felt like, especially in my switch class, there was like this safe space. So one of my favorite moments is I have a student who is white, and she sat in the chair and she said, can I ask a question? And I said, of course. Now at this point, prior to this, I had like prefaced it with, you know, we all know each other very well. We're not judging anybody based on their opinions or thoughts. If you agree, great. If you don't, you have to agree to disagree. But you know, we should have a certain level of trust at this point. And so she said, she's like, I just want to know, like, one of the cons could be, and my question is, okay, if we have like a Black History Month, why don't we have like a White History Month? And she meant no malice in it. She was just really asking. And I said, that's a great question because that brings up a lot of good conversation. And we had great conversations around that. And everybody was so respectful of each other, and they were just so into it. They were like fighting over the empty seat at one point. And same with my homeroom class, but that one got more heated when we were talking about gender and athletes and sports and gender roles, and like some of the kids were saying things in ways that came out like crazy, and then the girls were all riled up because some of the comments that were made. But it was just very good, and it was very rewarding, and that hour that we spent in both classes doing it went by so fast, and we really ran out of time. And that was like the first time when the bell rang where they were like not trying to rush out the room because they just wanted to finish getting their point across. And then at the end of my switch class, which is the end of the day, one of my students, who I think in some ways can be hard to impress, he was like, class was really interesting today. Like, I really liked it. And I said, oh, did you like the fishbowl technique? And he's like, yeah. I said, it almost felt like we weren't really learning. We were just talking, right? And he's like, yeah. And then other kids were like, yeah, I want to do that again. Can we do that more often? So I said, yeah. I said, I was a little nervous about it, but I mean, I see that you guys enjoy it, so I'll definitely find ways to incorporate it in the future. And we tied it all into, and I just kind of let them know we're having this discussion because for me as a teacher, as a Black teacher, when Black History Month comes around, I always try and make sure that they recognize that I'm not just focusing on Black History Month because I'm just into Black History Month because I happen to be Black, but that any opportunity that I have to provide inclusion and representation in the classroom is important to me. And we talked about how some people feel like for Black History Month, you shouldn't really focus on the past and just focus on the things of the present, which I get, but I truly believe that you have to understand the past to really appreciate the present. So I asked them, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to focus on Black people or African Americans of the present, or do you want to talk about the past, or do you want a combination of the two? And in both classes, they said we want a combination of the two. So for me, I need to kind of go home and sit down and find some time to figure out what exactly do I want to share that incorporates both present and past, and provide that to them. So I'm so happy I tried it. I really almost chickened out and didn't do it. And so I just jumped in there and I said, well, we're just gonna see if there's ever a day that's perfect for it, it's this, because the day was like unstructured just with our schedule changes. So great day, great Tuesday, and it's about to get better because I'm about to get these nails done that need to be done. So I need to get out of here. I hope you guys had a great day doing whatever you do if you're not a teacher, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hello, you guys. I feel bad because I feel like you're always looking at me in this exact same spot, but it's just the most convenient place for me to vlog. Let me turn off this music so I don't get copyright flagged. We're gonna go ahead and say it's 5 o'clock. It's 4:58, and I am packing my things up. And you know what? Just as quick as you have an amazing day in the classroom, you can turn around and have a day that you don't think is that amazing. That happened today. Today wasn't horrific, and if I were to be totally honest with myself, today didn't go as smoothly as I would have liked it to, because I came to work knowing what I was going to do, essentially just not having like the logistics of how I was going to do it mapped out. So I didn't really have time to like think everything through in terms of the flow of it, and like be proactive about being prepared for any problems or glitches that could happen. And so I think I was probably a little unsure as I was doing some things, and that ultimately affects how well a lesson goes if you're kind of like not 100% on how you want things to work. It wasn't terrible. I think I was just on such a high from yesterday that anything today probably would have been like disappointing. And that's a little dramatic. So basically, we made these cootie catchers that we were going to do last week. We made these, and what I learned walking them through the very simple steps that are laid out for them on the paper, see right there, those are the directions with pictures and words, and it's very simple because I'm not like good with stuff like this, and I was able to do it, so I know the directions were well thought out. It was hard for them. And then as I was walking them through it and using my elementary school teacher modeling skills, I realized it's probably hard for them because a lot of them have probably never made one of these, because they are coming up in an age where everything is electronic or technology is like their source of entertainment. So why would they have made a cootie catcher, really? But when they made one, they seemed very entertained by them. So I let them make it and then kind of quiz their neighbors for a couple of minutes. Some of them didn't quiz their neighbors and they were just kind of quizzing themselves, and that was fine. It got the job done. So we did that first, and then I have this Teachers Pay Teachers product that, let me see if it's still up and I can show it to you. It doesn't look like it is. I know I put in my Google Drive, so let's find it there. Here it is. So this is a Teachers Pay Teachers product, and I will try and remember to list it. That then gives like modern scenarios that are silly and fun, and ask the students to identify what right is like, what amendment is being violated. So for example, this one says Frederick Frum was eating lunch with his best friend Greta Gain in their school cafeteria. Frederick reached over and stole a tater tot off Greta's plate. Suddenly the police barged in and arrested him. He was put on trial and found guilty of theft. He was sentenced to death. Which amendment makes sure that this punishment would never happen to a person who has stolen a tater tot? So you give them a couple minutes to figure that out. Now, of course, I allowed them to use their cootie catcher if they wanted to, but most of them use that little tiny packet that we went over and read and annotated last Friday, because those have the actual words of the amendments in both original language and then plain language. And so they were able to quickly like identify using those, and I told them to focus on the annotations and the notes they made so they weren't reading the entire thing all over again. And if they got it right, they got a table point. I just randomly called on students. Now with my homeroom class, we tried something a little different. We were going to use a Kagan structure called Instant Star, and right away I found groups were cheating, like telling each other the answer, which is not what I want. I want you to be able to figure it out on your own first. Groups were working ahead because with my homeroom class, I had shared the Google Slides with them so they can kind of read along on their Chromebooks while I was projecting the software I was using for the Kagan structure. And by question 5, we had to shut that down. So we did. which A, was because it wasn't going the way that I wanted it, and B, we were running out of time anyway, but A, mostly because of A is what I'm trying to say. So we stopped. I gave them a talk, because then after that we had students off task talking. It just wasn't my favorite moment of the day, and I let them know. So at lunchtime I had to pull a couple students in and talk to them, and they're not terrible, they're not bad, they're just like talking out of turn and talking at times where they really shouldn't be, and it just was really getting to me, so I had to let them know. So that happened, and then we read chapter 14 of Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and I have this dilemma. What I have available to me, I'll say it this way, what I have available to me is some online quizzes that have been made to go with the Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and they're not, I don't know if you call them online quizzes, they're really quizzes that were made using a Google form based on chapters, excuse me, of Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and I have been encouraged to give those quizzes to kind of give like grading opportunities as we go through this. And I looked at them and I just am very hesitant, because I hate attaching quizzes to books we're reading together, and B, they're just like very basic leveled questions. It doesn't really require them to think deeply. So on the one hand, I'm like, I mean, it's not going to hurt me to give them the quiz. It's going to be graded by Google, and it'll give them a grade. So it's not hurting me in any way. It's not going to take them that long. And then on the other hand, I just don't want to, if I were to be honest. Probably what's going to happen is I'm going to give them 1 or 2 of those quizzes, because I think there's maybe 4 or 5, because they've been chunked into chapters. But is anybody else like that when you're reading? We call it correlate here because we do study sync and we are only reading excerpts of everything. So when we are reading correlate, we're reading the entire book. But anytime we do correlate, I just want to enjoy it. I just want to be able to read without making them feel like there's a test associated with it. So I'm very like hesitant to do that. Am I the only one that's like that, you guys? So I don't know, that's just me. And then the same thing happened in my switch class, but because of my experience with my homeroom class, I made some adjustments, and the adjustment that I made is they did not do it as a group, because I got burned my homeroom class, and I made them use privacy folders so they couldn't be tempted to look at each other's answers. They still got table points. And I didn't share the presentation on Google Classroom. I just projected it at the front of the classroom, and they read along with me, and that seemed to work better. So that's probably what I'll do tomorrow. I think we'll do a few a day. There's a total of 24 of them. And I thought I would get to like maybe 20 of them today. I don't know why I thought I was gonna get through that much, but we got through 5. And that seems like a good amount to get through to keep them engaged, but then not get to the point where they're like, we're over this. So you live and learn sometimes in your homeroom class. You see how things work or don't work, and then the switch class will get like the adjusted or modified version. So that's pretty much how our day ended. They seemed to like that. And I just finished preparing for tomorrow. I read a section of the social studies lesson we're going to start tomorrow. Took down some notes that I'm going to want them to have. And what else was I doing? Checking email, updating my website, things like that. And here I am, getting ready to go home. So I need to go home. I have a lot of stuff graded that I need to actually record in my record book, and then I have a lot of random stuff that needs to be handled. Our semester closes next Friday on Valentine's Day, and I don't want to be stressed during that time. And we have a long weekend coming up, and I honestly need that long weekend. Looks like I'm not going to take that mental health day, you guys, because it's not happening. But we have a long weekend, so if I just kind of focus during the week, like I think I've said earlier this week, then I can just enjoy the long weekend and have a mental health weekend. So that's my new strategy. But I'm gonna finish erasing this board and head home, cook a Blue Apron meal, try and get some work done, try and go to bed on time, and that's it. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Okay. Happy Friday, everybody. I just had a very tumultuous 5 minutes or so in my house. First, and it's all made me late. So I'm a little stressed because I'm a few minutes late. First, I realized I have no lunch nor breakfast food. Now, I knew I had no lunch food, but I thought I had an extra breakfast burrito, so I was going to eat a breakfast burrito for lunch. And I didn't have any lunch food because I thought I was going to take a day off this week for Mental Health Day. And so when I went grocery shopping over the weekend, it was very scant. I just got like a couple items to get me through that day because I thought the next day I would go grocery shopping, and that day never came. So I literally had no breakfast burritos, nor any lunch, and no snacks, which meant when I rummaged through everything, I had one protein bar that was supposed to last me through the whole day. So that was a bit of a problem. And then I left something upstairs, so I had to run upstairs and get that. And then my dog Genesis, like Riley, which is my mom's dog that I am taking care of, it's just a good dog. He knows the routine in the morning. He'll go downstairs. He will go to where he's supposed to go. My dog likes to dilly-dally around and purposely walk in slow motion and take her sweet little doggy time getting behind the gate. And that just made me more late, coupled with the fact that I was frustrated that I was basically going to be starving all day. The highlight of that is in the process of going through all that with Genesis, I remembered I have cheese slices and what is all this? It's like someone's trash blew away. I had cheese slices and pepperoni slices that I bought over the weekend. So I still don't have breakfast. My last resort with breakfast is I'm going to hope that there's a breakfast burrito in the freezer in my classroom, because that is very possible. And if there's not, then I'll be having a protein bar for breakfast. And for lunch, I'll just be eating slices of pepperoni and cheese, just a high protein lunch. So now I need to calm down because I'm going to be late. And I have to accept that. But I was really supposed to be telling you about my day yesterday because I didn't pick up the camera. Yesterday was Thursday, obviously. Yesterday I had my post-observation meeting during my prep period. That went really well. She was happy with my lesson, had nothing but positive things to say and complimentary things to say. So that's always a good result to have. And as far as in the class, there just is not enough time in the day. So there is this informational text piece that I want to go through with my class that falls in line with what they're looking at in Study Sync. And instead of using the Study Sync materials, I found something else that ties into what we're reading in terms of the boy in the striped pajamas. And for the past 3 days, I just haven't gotten to it because we keep running out of time, because I need to keep reading Boy in the Striped Pajamas so that I don't get behind where the rest of the language arts teachers are. So today, or in social studies, we've been talking about just the structure of government, like the 3 different branches in more detail, and the Bill of Rights. And that's what we've been doing there. But today I think I'm going to have to skip social studies for the most part. They will still do their reflection on their current event, their article of the week, but that shouldn't take too long, and then devote the majority of the day to language arts so that I can get caught up on what I wanted to have done. So that happened, and the kids are really into like social studies because what we're studying right now is actually happening in real time. Like, we're talking about checks and balances, so then conversations about the impeachment process and all of that, and running for Senate and House of Representatives and the composition of Congress, and all of those things are things that are very current in the news. And so they have questions and things like that. And so it's been interesting, and we've gotten a little derailed because they have these questions that I feel like we should talk about. So today, like I said, I hope to devote the majority of my time to language arts and getting things caught up there. The other good news is that I'm pretty caught up on my grading. I've been hauling stacks of paper around for a long time, and it's been giving me anxiety. I've had like random late assignments that have been turned in, and I'm pretty much caught up with that, which is good because grades close next Friday, which means report cards are due soon thereafter. So I'm hoping today to grade this last little assignment that I have, and then do some lesson planning so that when I go home for my long weekend, I really just enjoy a long weekend with no school work to do or nothing hanging over my head, because I really, really, really need that. So fingers crossed that happens. So more than likely, I will check in with you guys sometime after school. So I'll talk to you. It's just before 6 o'clock on Friday. I'm walking to the office to make copies. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I'm the last person here, which is not unusual, but that's okay. I'm getting some work done so I can enjoy my long weekend. Here are my copies. I think I'm gonna be going home soon though. Good evening, because it's evening. It's 6 o'clock. I just got back from the office to make copies, and I do believe I am in fact the only teacher that is here. The only person that I ran into on my way up there was the custodian, and he said late night, and I said yeah. And so I didn't see any other teachers as I was going, but that is to be expected. It is Friday, and the Friday before a long weekend, so a lot of teachers bopped out of here really quick, and some teachers didn't even come today. They took the day off to make it a 4-day weekend, which is understandable. So I was making copies. I don't know how I was going to frame this, but I think what I was going to say in this clip here is one of my non-negotiables for Fridays. One of the reasons why I'm still here is there are certain copies that I have to have made before I leave, because I need them Monday, or I need them Monday, even though we don't have school this coming Monday, but you know what I mean. Because Monday mornings tend to be busy and hectic, and it's several copies that I need to make, and there's nothing like being stressed and pressed for time, waiting in the workroom in line to use the copy machine. So the first thing that I have to make sure that I have copied is the cover sheet for the article of the week for the upcoming week. So this is the one I'm going to use next week, and this one is going to ask them to read the article and identify a central idea, and then it says draw an analysis of how the central idea develops over time. I think I'm just going to have them write that out. And I also have to make a copy of the actual article that they are going to be reading. So as I've mentioned before, I pick the articles based on the weekend wrap that is put out by Flocabulary every Friday. I show them on Mondays though, because that is when I assign the article of the week. And this week's, or next week's article I should say, is going to be about Barbie. And if you follow me on Instagram and have heard me mention it, you know that I just love Barbie Style, which is an Instagram account that if you are not following it, you need to go follow it. But this is about Barbie in the broader sense, and I've also watched a documentary on Barbie and how she's evolved over time and all of that, but that's besides the point. But this article is titled Barbie Gets More Diverse, Mattel Unveils Dolls with No Hair, Vitiligo. And so it talks about how they are making an effort to make Barbie more diverse and more representative of the population. And so I thought this would be a good article to use. Plus it's a little bit more lighthearted. Last week, or the past week, the one that they turned in today was about the Grammys, that touched a little bit on the death of Kobe Bryant. And then the week before that, their article was on the impeachment process. So I did the copies for that, which are right here. I don't staple them because by the time I'm done copying, I'm too lazy, and I just tell myself you can staple them on Monday. But if I were really disciplined, I would staple them right now, but I'm not going to. The other set of copies that I have to make are the prefixes and suffixes pages that make up the packet. So again, these pages come from this book that I bought on Amazon titled 500 prefixes, suffixes, and stems. And I bought this because vocabulary is a low scoring category when we look at their iReady results. And it's because they are not getting explicitly taught in prefixes and suffixes, at least at this age. And even when I taught elementary, I can't even say that there was a defined time where we were doing that. Not because I didn't want to, but because there just is not enough time in the day to accomplish all the things that they, whoever they is to you, think we should be teaching in a school day. So this is my attempt at that. I do think as we get closer to state testing, I'm gonna try and find some more engaging activities to review, prefixes, suffixes, Greek and Latin roots, just to kind of keep that going and get a sense of where they're at. So those are the copies that I have to make. And one of the realizations that I had today is that when I'm carrying around a lot of paper in my bag, this, it makes me feel very overwhelmed and like stressed. So I had a lot of paper in there, but it was not necessarily a lot of assignments. So of course I have 2 classes, about 25 to 27 students in both classes. So it's always a lot of paper because I'm carrying 2 sets worth, but most of it was graded or partially graded. And so today, the other thing I said I had to do before I left is I needed to grade it. I needed to grade their article of the week that they just turned in today, because those are the things that I tend to procrastinate on grading, and they're not that difficult to grade. I think I just get lazy about it and I procrastinate, and then that just causes me stress. And it's not good business, because in a perfect world, the kids will get their graded article the week from the previous week back in a more timely fashion, so they can see if they're on the right track in terms of the annotations they're making and things like that. So I got those graded, but I do still need to grade their reflections, which is something that they do on a Google slide, and that doesn't take very long. And I can do that from the comfort of my own couch. So as far as today is concerned, they had their points assembly. They had an 8th grade promotion points assembly that kind of tells them some rules and guidelines they need to follow as we get near the end of the year, and kind of keep all the 8th graders in line, because we know as the end of the year progresses or gets closer, all students start loosening up a little bit, but especially students who are promoting from one level of school to the next. So I remember when I taught 5th, as the end of the year approached, the 5th graders started to really feel themselves, as I like to say, because they're like, oh, we're not in elementary school anymore, we're going to middle school. So they just start to think the rules of the elementary school don't apply. Same with 8th graders. They're in their last few months of middle school. In their minds, they're practically high school students, so things get a little loose. So they have these policies in place where they have to have so many points to participate in the fun and end of the year activities. So that assembly was to explain all of that to them today. And I just closed my rings on my watch. And they have to get this paper signed by their parents and turn that in. And there's permission slips that need to be filled out and all of that. So that occurred, and then we did cut social studies short. They just did their article of the week reflection, and I gave them some reminders. And I devoted a little bit of time to have them share their reflections, because that was something I had slacked off on, because the last few months have just been so hit and miss with me being here that I needed to make sure I got back to that. Then we read Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and they're getting really close to the end. And we talked about, you know, that we're on chapter 17, and then we finally got to the thing that I was not getting to, which is from Reading Like a Historian from the Stanford History Education Group. So in Study Sync, in this unit, they are supposed to be also looking at informational text, understanding that there's different types of informational text, and each type of informational text has its own purpose. So what they provided on Study Sync, I wasn't super excited about, and I didn't think it was the best. So I found this that is informational text and ties into the events and the background information they need for Boy in the Striped Pajamas. So this is titled Nazi Propaganda Lesson Plan, and the central question is, how did the Nazi Party convince 99% of Germans to vote in favor of the annexation of Austria? So that's the overarching question for this, and we talk about that, but I'm really using it to have them identify the different types of informational text. So we only looked at this one today. This is document A, and by the end of it, they're supposed to identify that this is a speech, and the purpose of this piece of informational text, or this speech, was to incite emotion, to persuade the Germans to decide that annexation was something that they needed to do. And as we read the speech and analyzed it, we talked about the words he used, what kinds of emotions did he evoke, that kind of contributed to 99% of the population voting for that. And I made sure to tell them, like, when you're voting on a national scale, for 99% of the population to agree is like unheard of. Like that is something to be noted. So we read through the words, we highlighted, we annotated, and just prior to this lesson that is free on the website does come with a very short PowerPoint presentation that gives them background information on the Treaty of Versailles, which is kind of like a big reason why Hitler was able to kind of rise to power. So I showed them that PowerPoint presentation, and I also found about a 2-minute video that was animated that also talked about the Treaty of Versailles and all that was involved with it, so that they knew, well, what was the Treaty of Versailles, to know why the Germans were not necessarily thrilled about things after it was put in place. So we did that, and that's about where we left off. And that was exactly what I was hoping would happen today. So I'm good with that. So it is 6:12. I'm going to go home. Before I do, I am going to treat myself to some Chipotle for dinner, because I'm certainly not going to go home and cook. It's in the budget because I have budgeted $40 a month to eat out. And Fridays are just days where I would prefer not to cook because I'm worn out. And so that's what I'm gonna have for dinner, Chipotle. So I'm gonna go home, do that. I am going to probably do some grading of the reflections, and I might even try and get the lesson plans done, because I really don't want to have any work over the weekend. So all in all, good day. It went as planned. Don't really have any complaints. So there's that, and it's a long weekend. So if you enjoyed this vlog, give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed, please make sure that you do subscribe. If you feel inclined to leave a comment, as long as it's positive, please make sure you do that, and I will respond to it as soon as I can. And if you are not following me on Instagram, please make sure you head over there to do that. But that's it. I will be sure to check in with you guys, which will be Tuesday of next week. I hope all is well, and I will see you then. Bye, guys.